San Antonio has grown exponentially over the last few years, and as it is my last day, I can say personally it has been an absolute honor being able to tell the stories of all the families moving here, the influx of economic opportunity, the jobs, and of course the changing city. It is important to note that this growth doesn't look like it's slowing down anytime soon.
And that's a good thing. Joining us in today's Leading SA segment is City Manager Erik Walsh. Good morning, Erik. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thanks for honoring me on Max's last day.
Of course, we had to.
We had to, and it's funny, Erik and I were talking earlier. He did lock himself in before we realized it was daylight savings. So we really appreciate you starting your Sunday morning with us. But look, all of that being said, we kind of alluded to it, just immense growth over the last 5 to 10 years. What's it been like from your perspective?
That's a really good question, Max. It's a huge responsibility. I think that all of us have, the mayor, the council, the corridor between San Antonio and Austin is one of the fastest growing corridors in the country. So making sure that we're keeping up with infrastructure needs and service needs is really critical and will be critical for the next 10 to 15 years.
A lot of that growth happening, like Max talked about, in the downtown area. I mean, we see construction. At one point, I was doing crane counting. We're seeing a lot more condos, apartment complexes, hotels. So what is the downtown strategic plan for growth going forward?
So we talked about that this past week with council, and Visit San Antonio, Centro, and the city are working on a new strategic plan for the future. The last time we updated that plan was in 2012, and a whole bunch of things have changed since then. I can look out my window and see 2 cranes. And so what are the things that will be changing in the future that we need to prepare for? San Antonio belongs to everybody, and it's not just for visitors. And it is part of the core of this city and a huge economic development driver with our industries downtown. So, we'll need to lay out a plan strategically, which will include things like housing, affordable housing, market housing, and what type of services need to be thought of as we move into the future.
It really is such a thin line to walk because you're trying to prepare for the people who live here now while also planning decades ahead. And we've seen kind of other cities try to do this, but do it too late. Places like Austin, where you go there and you're stuck in traffic just trying to get a mile or 2 down the road, taking 25 minutes. So how do you guys walk this line and prepare accordingly?
Well, it's a balancing act because while you have to prepare for the new, like you said, Max, maintaining our infrastructure is really key. We have a lot of street construction around town right now, and we have not even really started the projects from the 2022 bond program. Those will start in about 18 months. And so it's making sure that we work those projects out. We're communicating, and you try to stay ahead. We try to get the 2022 bond program, by the time the voters go to the ballot in 2027 to vote on that bond program, 90% of the projects will be done. And the key is that and I'm going to be talking to a group tomorrow about this, making sure you move projects along is critical. And it's something that a lot of cities struggle with. And it's you'll start to see a lot of construction out at the airport here in about 12 months. And that'll be a really big, important infrastructure project for this region. The airport is a $5 billion a year economic impact to our region, and we need to grow that facility. We have not, planning and executing those projects is super important and what we're focused on.
I'm so glad you talked about the airport. Got to see you at the airport, the new rebrand, very exciting times. And look, we've been doing stories on the airport for years now. It is amazing. We always talk about how efficient it is. Personally, my favorite airport in the entire world. Also, if you are headed to the airport, anyone watching there, 2 hours.
2 hours.
2 hours. Be smart,
Max
be safe.
Massey time.
But this is so exciting. And we heard from the mayor. We heard from so many local leaders about how when the airport does well, San Antonio does well. Can you explain that correlation, especially as it pertains to business aspects?
Absolutely. We had a banner year last year at the airport. Almost 10.7 million passengers passed through our doors, broke all kinds of records. We've been breaking records every month for the last 8 months, and that is twofold, right? You've got opportunities for residents in this region, and we're seeing and I'll say region because we're seeing the use of the airport not only by San Antonians but outside San Antonio. But then it's also, San Antonio is a great destination and leisure market, and it's facilitated that bounce back that our visitor industry has seen over the last 24 months, and super important to this economy. And then I'll add the third part of that is that the connectivity for businesses and industry, as that improves here locally, those are improvements that they'll be able to enjoy. And those connections into Mexico and the expansions we saw last year, I would say 50% of the benefit there is really on the business and trade side, and not the leisure side. And those are important as our economy continues to grow.
Well, Erik Walsh, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We really appreciate you getting up early on daylight saving time. For our viewers, you can watch this interview in full later this morning on ksat.com.